How fast and how slow you are is probably losing you games. Today I want to talk about something I'm calling the Goldilocks Zone. And no, not the fairy tale, I'm talking about pacing. How fast you move, how quickly you engage, or how slow you engage. How well your pace matches the people around you on your team, the enemy team, and the map. Because if I'm being honest, I think pacing is probably the most underrated skill in PvP. Some people call it team rhythm. A lot of us have heard this before. You're going too fast, or maybe slow down, I can't keep up, and way too often the response is, well, I'm going this way. No accountability, no adaptation, no understanding of what's actually happening. And I think that mindset loses more games than people realize. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Being mechanically skilled doesn't automatically make you a good teammate. Sometimes it actually makes people worse teammates. Let me explain. Imagine you're the best player in the lobby. You fly into a fight, full of confidence, G fuel, your movement's cracked, perfect aim, and you kill 2 people. Awesome. Big play. But then you die. Now your ghost, your res, is in their spawn. It's in a horrible spot. They can guard it. They can reset. Your teammates can't safely get to it. The enemy team gets to reset, and suddenly your teammates are stuck in a 2v3 because the strongest player on their team pushed so fast that nobody could actually support the play or even register it was happening. This is where I think people misunderstand pacing. Because mechanically, you probably made a good play, got a cool clip. Strategically, you might have thrown the round. And I know that sounds harsh, but it matters. PvP, especially trials, comp, or any elimination style game mode, it isn't only about who gets kills. There's zone, there's pressure, there's tempo, trade potential, positioning, and understanding when your team can realistically support what you're trying to do. That's what I mean by the Goldilocks Zone. Not too fast, not too slow. Just right. Fast enough to apply pressure, slow enough that your team can actually exist in the same game as you. If you're a stronger player, slowing down can feel frustrating, especially in solos. Because let's be honest, solo queue is chaos. There's no comms, random loadouts, different skill levels, different awareness, different personalities, and it's very unlikely that you'll have the same aptitudes as your teammates. Sometimes you get teammates who are aggressive maniacs who just run it down mid. Sometimes you get people who crouch walking and spawn like they're afraid the enemy is hiding underneath the floorboards or there's monsters underneath their beds. You're not getting 3 identical players. So adaptation becomes the skill, and this is where I think experienced players sometimes fail. You cannot assume your teammates think like you. You cannot assume they have your awareness. You cannot assume they know the angle you're taking, the pressure you're applying, or the read you're making, especially if they don't know you. You have to read the room, read the loadout, read the pacing, read the map. For example, let's say I load into a game and my teammate is running last word in a shotgun. Okay. That immediately tells me something. This person probably isn't helping me hard lane from 40 meters away. They probably want close engagements. They probably want tighter angles. They probably want chaos. So if I'm the experienced player, I should adjust. Maybe I don't ego challenge along lane expecting magical support from the last word player that was never coming. Maybe I take space more carefully. Maybe I stay a little closer to cover. Maybe I use radar more intentionally. Maybe I recognize, hey, there are 2 or 3 people on this lane. I'm not taking this fight alone because the guy with last word isn't going to be able to shoot them. That's pacing. Now let's flip it. Maybe your teammate is running a slower long-range weapon or weapon combo. A pulse rifle, a scout rifle, a long-range auto like a 360, or maybe he's running 2 of each. That's not my favorite combo personally, but people run what they run. That tells me something too. They're probably not built for close-range panic fights, or special jousting, playing angles, applying pressure from a distance. So if they take space and someone collapses on them, they're gonna die. It might be my job to move a bit faster. It might be my job to rotate and support them, to protect them when the inevitable shotgun ape comes rushing in. Because pacing isn't just speed, it's synchronization. It's knowing who is good at what range and playing around that instead of fighting against it. And I think people miss that. The best teams in PvP aren't always the fastest teams. They're the teams that move together. Even if they're not perfect individually, even if they're not all making the same reads, they are aligned. But what? And that's why sometimes a cracked player loses games and goes, bro, my teammates are terrible, these blueberries, man. And sometimes, yeah, the teammates are off. That happens. But sometimes you outran them. You assumed they saw what you saw. You assumed they were ready for the fight you took. You treated solo queue like a coordinated team, and it isn't. So pacing becomes a responsibility, not just a play style. Now, before this sounds like it's all on the fast player, it's not. Because accountability goes both ways. If you're slower or less experienced, you have someone on your team consistently making plays, consistently getting kills, consistently creating space, you can't just ignore that either. You don't have to suddenly become hyper-aggressive or be comfortable in spaces you aren't usually comfortable. That's not the point. But you need to adapt a little. Meet them halfway or a quarter way. Maybe instead of sitting way back and waiting for everything to fully unfold, you come forward 10 meters. Or you push just a bit sooner than you usually would. Maybe you stop assuming you need perfect certainty before moving. Because sometimes waiting for the perfect information just means you arrive after the fight is already lost or over. And if you're taking the fight after it's already over, you're missing out on special gain, super gain, and you're going to lose the fight because the enemy team will have more momentum. And if a stronger player slows down slightly, and a slower player speeds up slightly, something important happens. You find a rhythm, you find timing, you find synergy, and suddenly the team starts functioning. The aggressive player stops dying alone in isolated fights. The slower player stops arriving too late to matter. Trades start happening. Pressure starts sticking. You're no longer just random players in the same match. You're actually a unit. That's the Goldilocks zone. Not too fast that you outran your team, not too slow that you stop applying pressure, but just aligned enough that everyone can actually play the game together. And honestly, I think this is one of the biggest differences between players who frag out occasionally, or most of the time, and players who consistently win games. Because consistency isn't just aim, it isn't just movement, it isn't just game sense and isolation, it's understanding tempo, it's understanding what pace does this team need from me right now. Sometimes the correct answer is go fast, take space, end the fight before it starts. Sometimes the correct answer is slow down, anchor, and let your team stabilize. And sometimes the correct answer is somewhere in between, where you're just slightly adjusting your speed to match what's happening around you. That's the Goldilocks zone. Not a fixed play style, a moving target, a decision you make every round. And if you start thinking about pacing like that, not as a I play fast, or I play slow, or I'm an aggressive player, or I'm a passive player, but instead I adapt to the team map or team fight I'm currently in, your games will start to change because you stop fighting your teammates, you stop expecting perfection from randoms, and you start building something that actually works with what you've been given. And yeah, sometimes that means you slow down when you don't want to, and sometimes that means you speed up when it feels a little uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. And over time, that's what turns good players into winning players, and that's what the Goldilocks zone is. I hope this makes sense, and I'm eager to hear what you guys think down below. Quack, quack, mother duckers. Peace. Don't be wrong. Join the pond. Quack, quack, mother duckers.